those states, they have like a spring in their neighborhood where they can just go pump water out.
It's gross. Have you ever drinking water out of a well?
It's a spring though.
So like,
oh, you mean like the metal and stuff?
I went to, what was it, Minnesota with our buddy John, and we went and we stayed at this lake house. The water from the lake house, I guess it just came directly from the lake because it's a freshwater lake, or it came from like a well, like a spring or whatever nearby.
Right.
It tasted like fish. It tasted like...
Dude, I was out in the country, actually, in, what was it, St. Clair?
Yeah.
And, dude, I drank their tap water, and it tasted like fish.
Yes.
It
was gross. It tasted like the lake smelled. And if you've ever been next to a freshwater lake, you'll know that it doesn't smell appetizing. It's like rotting fish and materials. Hey, welcome to the Nick and Sean broadcast. I am Nick.
I'm Sean.
And today I'm going to be doing something a little different. So me and Nick decided I was going to watch a couple movies when Nick wasn't around, and I'm going to describe those movies to Nick. And now Nick is going to rate them. Nick, what's your rating system?
1 to 10.
1 to 10. All right, Nick's going to rate them 1 to 10. So I watched 2 different movies. So the first one I watched 2 days ago. And I didn't make notes about these movies, so this is straight off my head. The first movie I watched was called Seven Psychopaths. What caught my eye about this movie is it has Sam Rockwell, Christopher Walken, Colin Farrell, and...
Spoiler alert, I haven't seen it.
He has not seen these movies. That's the other catch.
I haven't seen any of these?
No. Well, I did. I have Masters of the Universe written down that we watched together.
Okay.
Maybe we can end cap it with that one. So, Seven Psychopaths, Sam Rockwell, Christopher Walken, Colin Farrell, Woody Harrelson. I was like, yes, I'm in 100%. This is one of those movies. There's a specific type of movie that is so... It's a movie obviously written by a writer. You know what I mean? Where it's like the writer wants to write a movie about a writer who's writing a movie, and it gets very meta very quickly, and they're trying to say something profound when they really should have just stuck to their premise to begin with.
It just gets too belly aching.
It gets a little
like
bit.
A little bit in the stern, like in.
No, where it gets to the point where you're just like, all right, man, I get it. Writing in Hollywood is a difficult and arduous task. So the movie starts out. Our Colin Farrell is the main character. I'm using their real names, not their movie names.
I've never known whether or not to not like Colin Farrell or like him.
I like Colin Farrell.
Is he pretty good?
I think he's fine in the right movies, but he does a lot of these artsy-fartsy kind of movies where you're like, he's being underused. I don't know if he just can't get a good acting gig because he did too many shitty movies back in the 90s.
A lot of actors are underused.
I mean, like, have you ever seen the movie Phone Booth?
No, but have you seen the movie ATM?
No.
Is
there really a movie called
horrifying.
ATM?
This lady's stuck in like an ATM with like the doors, like the glass doors, and there's like this guy trying to kill her from the outside.
That's what the movie Phone Booth is. I'm not kidding. The movie Phone Booth is he's stuck in a phone booth and there's a sniper out there, and he's like, he can't leave or else they'll snipe him.
Jesus.
And so he's like, the whole movie takes place in the phone booth. It's actually kind of, I wonder if one's
These movies make me like unhappy in every way.
Yes, those are good movies. So anyway, Seven Psychopaths.
It's kind of like cool to watch it if you're not in that situation, but like damn, that's like.
Well, they're thrillers. Yeah. So Seven Psychopaths is not a thriller. It's supposed to be like a meta comedy.
It's kind of like, have you ever locked yourself out of the house and you panic and you're like, how do I get in?
No, because I just bring my key with me because I'm afraid of doing that.
I haven't ever locked myself out of here, but I'm just saying, in general, in
yeah,
life.
I'm afraid of locking myself out of the house.
This is freeform.
It's freeform. All right, so Seven Psychopaths. So it starts off with Colin Farrell and his friend Sam Rockwell. You know Sam Rockwell? He does some amazing work. He's one of my favorite actors. I guess he's really most notable for like being in Iron Man 2, which is a shame. He is in a lot of these indie movies that are just really good. I think he was on Moon. yeah, his body of work speaks for itself. He is a great actor. So Colin Farrell and Sam Rockwell are best friends, and Colin Farrell's writing a movie about, and it's called Seven Psychopaths.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was talking about, where like the movie that we're in is also the movie that he's writing, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it's called Seven Psychopaths, and he is using his friends' stories as though they're his stories, right? So he'll get drunk because the Colin Farrell has an alcohol problem, which isn't really. I don't feel like they really made him seem like he was an alcoholic. They just had him drinking, but he didn't really ever seem like he was wasted drunk throughout this movie. So I'm like, all right, fine. He's an alcoholic who drinks all the time but is never drunk. So the thing is, whenever Sam Rockwell tells Colin Farrell a story, Colin Farrell wakes up the next day, writes it down for his movie The Seven Psychopaths, and thinks that he created it. Or we get the impression that he may be aware that he's stealing his friend's stories, but his friend's like, dude, you totally took that from me last week. That's my story.
Right.
There's like a serial killer who kills people in the park, but he only kills he only kills mafia people. The next psychopath is our main psychopath, Woody Harrelson. And then there's this whole story with a priest who tracks down the murderer of his daughter. That's the third psychopath. But each one of these is stories that he's stealing from Sam Rockwell. And Sam Rockwell just keeps confronting him time and time again. Like, dude, that's my story. What are you doing? Sam Rockwell is also a dog catcher, but not in the sense that you think. He steals people's dogs and then sells them back for a profit. So he'll steal an old lady's dog. They'll wait for them to post a reward and then bring the dog and get the reward. But they steal Woody Harrelson's dog. And Woody Harrelson is the big bad of the movie. So we're off to a great premise. And at this point in the movie, I'm like, yeah, tell me more. Oh, and also Sam Rockwell is psychopath number 1. And we don't know it yet. So psychopath number 1.
Dude, I'm actually wanting to watch this now.
I know, it's kind of, I'm telling you, well. So hilarious hijinks ensue. And as we keep going, Colin Farrell just fucks up his life more and more. Right? He tells his girlfriend to go fuck herself or something while he's drunk. And so he has to stay at Sam Rockwell's house. And Christopher Walken is the one who's helping Sam Rockwell steal dogs. And Christopher Walken also has a wife in the hospital, and she's dying of cancer. So anyway, Woody Harrelson's goons show up to find the dog, right? They kick in the door. They're about to kill Christopher Walken and Colin Farrell. And then a mysterious killer shows up, who we later find out is actually Sam Rockwell, shows up and kills both of the goons. They all escape with the dog of Woody Harrelson. So Woody Harrelson, in return, goes and kills Christopher Walken's wife in the hospital. And there's a really cool scene where Christopher Walken knows his wife has been murdered, and then he goes downstairs, he sits across from Woody Harrelson, with the blood of his wife still on him. And they just have this nice little talk. And it's really like you could just feel the chill in the air that Christopher Walken knows this is the man who killed his wife. And Woody Harrelson is just so flippant about being there. So anyway, so the whole thing culminates in, turns out Sam Rockwell is also sleeping with Woody Harrelson's girlfriend. And she's about to tell on him for stealing the dog. So Sam Rockwell just shoots Woody Harrelson's girlfriend in the stomach and leaves her to die. They all decide to run away to the desert to finish the movie, Seven Psychopaths. Because there's one character in the movie, they haven't figured out what his story is. It's a Vietnamese psychopath who's still reliving the Vietnam War. And so Christopher Walken, Sam Rockwell, and Colin Farrell spend the rest of the movie sitting in the desert writing the rest of the movie as we're watching it being written.
Right.
And at that point, it breaks me. Because I'm a little bit sick of this whole meta, like, we get it. Writing movies are hard. We get it. Hollywood is a strange place. It's unrelatable because I don't live in Hollywood and I don't write movies. So that part kind of took me out of it a little bit, although it was entertaining the entire way through. And at the very end, because they said there wouldn't be a big gun battle, but Sam Rockwell really wants there to be a big gun battle, eventually there's a big gun battle. And everybody dies, except for Woody Harrelson, the bad guy, and Colin Farrell, our main lead. Woody Harrelson gets locked up and put in jail. I'm not going to spoil it because Nick literally hasn't seen this and he might actually want to watch it.
Is that
so?
I wanted to rate it if you're.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's very complicated and convoluted at the end, where there's a gun battle and then Christopher Walken walks off because he's like ate peyote. There's like a whole peyote scene at the end, where and then. Sam Rockwell burns the car and they're stuck in the desert, and he also calls the bad guy. He's like, "We have your fucking dog." So Woody Harrelson shows up with his goons, and there's this whole thing where it's very meta, where they show Sam Rockwell's version of how it should end with a big gun battle in a cemetery, but it ends up being a really small kind of like skirmish in the desert, and in the end, the whole movie really is based around. The whole movie ends with Christopher Walken having tape recorded the perfect ending to the psychopath of the Vietnamese psychopath, where he's like, "I know what it is," and it turns out the Vietnamese psychopath, the only psychopath we haven't actually met in the movie, because Sam Rockwell's a psychopath. We have Woody Harrelson is a psychopath. Christopher Walken ends up being the psychopath that slices his throat. He basically causes the murderer of his daughter to slice his own throat because he tortures him for over a decade after he gets out of jail by like just showing up at his house and creeping through his room, and eventually the guy decides to slit his own throat. And as he slits his own throat, he looks out the window and sees Christopher Walken also slicing his own throat because, like, you can't escape me, I'll be in hell with you kind of a thing. But apparently Christopher Walken lived. And we only find that out in the end. We've been told this story like 3 or 4 times. It's one of the stories that was stolen by Colin Farrell. So anyway, Christopher Walken dies, but before he dies, he has this tape recorder that basically solves the story of the Vietnamese man. The Vietnamese man, he has a hooker. He straps a bomb to her. He takes her down to this veterans memorial for Vietnam veterans and American Vietnam veterans. Now, he was a Vietnamese on the Viet Cong side. That's important. So the war is still happening for him on the not American side, so he wants to kill all these Americans. And then it turns out that whole thing is also meta. He's actually the Vietnamese.
Not too bad to me. I think
he's actually the Vietnamese guy about to set himself on fire. He's the first Vietnamese monk to kill himself to protest the war, and all of that happens inside of his head. And it's very like, oh, that's kind of nice. But it was presented in such a meta way that it took me so far out of the movie. The movie was trying to be so clever that I wasn't impressed. However, it's not up to me. It's up to Nick. Nick, what do you think of my movie?
Well, having not seen it, I give it a solid 7.
Solid 7.
7. What was the movie? 7.
It's 7 psychopaths.
7
so
psychopaths.
7 psychopaths.
So I give it a solid 7. I'm not even just doing that. So.
All right, cool. All right. You know what? As someone who has seen the movie,
what do you get?
I would give it a solid 7. It really is like it's not good enough to be like, I think I'll watch that movie a million more times, but I may rewatch it once. You know what I mean? I enjoyed it while it was happening, but
it's kind of like Blood Diamond. I really don't want to watch it again because it's like there's so much in it. Like reaches.
This
like,
wasn't even.
Puts you through a lot.
It wasn't painful to watch. It wasn't like even the gore scenes were so casual. Like he's just like shoots a girl in the stomach, and it's played like almost for laughs.
Right.
So anyway,
Cool.
7 Psychopaths. Movie number 2. Broken Lizards, Slammin Salmon. This is going to be a jarring difference between movie tones. All right, so this is the one I watched this morning. It is Broken Lizards, Slammin Salmon. Now, I've watched almost all of the Broken Lizard movies. I think the only one I haven't is actually Club Dread, which you had talked to me before this. Said you hadn't seen. I've seen parts of it. I haven't seen the whole thing all the way through. But they make the movies like Super Troopers. They made Beer Fest. Obviously, Super Troopers 2. So they have a pretty good reputation with these movies. They're pretty funny guys. They make, as far as quality, the movies they make are very solidly shot, written, and directed. The pacing, I was really impressed because as far as making a small, low-budget movie goes, I think these guys nail it almost every time. They take a shoestring budget and just using the simplest of basics, they make a watchable
I think
movie.
Club Dread is like, we'll just give you what you want.
Yeah, it's one of those horror movies. Just like it's a spoof horror movie. Super Troopers is obviously like they have a style. Let's just say they have a style. So I had never seen Broken Lizards, Slammin Salmon, and it immediately jumped out at me. I can't remember if I'm on HBO or Amazon on that one. I have both. Both of these movies I watched either on HBO or Amazon. If you have one of those, you'll probably be able to watch them. So Slammin Salmon starts out. It is a movie about a boxer who owns a restaurant. And it's the story of the people who work in that restaurant. So he's supposed to be like this Mike Tyson type, but he's played by the guy from The Green Mile who actually passed away a few years ago. Rest in peace. And the movie takes place...
Sounds like a good movie. He was a good actor.
He was great. And he seemed like he was really loving this character and this part. Everybody in this movie, I'm going to go ahead and say, every person who was in this movie really seems like they're having fun. That's something that I look for in my movies. You can tell when an actor wants to be on set. It's subtle, but you can tell that these are people who are enjoying what they do. The movie starts out, basic plot is that the restaurant needs to earn $2,000 in a single night so that the owner can pay the Yakuza. Again, this movie also has the Yakuza. So if you listen to the last podcast, you're like, weren't they talking about Yakuzas back there? Yes, we were. Yakuzas. Anytime you have an Asian gang, they're Yakuzas. Very stereotypical. We had to pay the Yakuza $200, or $2,000, not $200, $2,000. But this restaurant has never made more than $1,500 in a night. So everybody on the wait staff now has to work as hard as they can to make the $2,000. But none of them are motivated, so they need motivators. So first they try to motivate them with concert tickets that the manager was going to give to his girlfriend, and his girlfriend's like, no, I don't like those. Why would you get me? It was like Celine Dion or something like that. It's not important to the plot because nobody in the restaurant wants the concert tickets. So half of the staff just aren't even trying. And so he's like, all right, I booked a Bahama cruise. Or no, it was a hotel stay. A stay in a hotel. So we have 5 different characters, right? We have the new guy who is a twin brother to the cook. We have pretty girl number 1 who uses her looks to get tips. We have pretty girl number 2 who's smart and isn't as pretty, but is played by an actress who is actually much more pretty, who's been in some other things. I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I can't remember her name. Not bothered to look it up. Not important right now. And then we have the good-looking guy, who is just good-looking. That's his character. He doesn't have much of a character. And then a movie star who was recently fired from a CSI clone show. Like it's like basically supposed to be CSI. So I'm not going to get into everybody. the movie continues on. Obviously, like the main character in this movie is, I guess, the main character is manager, because the manager has like a whole like a pre-credit scene where he like wants to quit, and then he falls down the stairs and breaks his leg, and he's like, I'm not a quitter, but like, you know, he was going to quit, and then he ends up being the manager underneath like the boxer, right? So the only person he answers to is the boxer, and the boxer's a crazy, he's supposed to be Mike Tyson, like I said before, and he's just insane. He is like literally just punching people, and like he
So before I make this any worse, is the boxer the actor from Green Mile?
yes,
Okay, cool.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It is kind of amazing because he plays it so well, man. And he's just like, yeah, I'm the greatest. I'm the best. You know, if you can picture the movie Waiting, and then this is just better than that. It is. The whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm like, man, I really wish I would have watched this movie instead of the movie Waiting with fucking the comedian from Waiting.
I've never seen Waiting. I've missed out on a lot of stuff, dude.
Don't watch it. It's not as good as this. So when I was younger, everybody was like, you know, in my early 20s, everyone was like, Waiting, man. If you've ever been in a restaurant job, you'll understand Waiting. I understood this more from a restaurant perspective than I had ever seen, than ever in the movie Waiting. I was like, no. I get the customer who won't order anything, but also just like won't leave. Like, oh, he just ordered a sandwich an hour ago, and now he's just taking up your spot. And the servers are getting restless. And then the guys in the kitchen are just angry.
Oh, yeah.
It makes perfect sense. If you worked in a restaurant, you're like, yeah, no, that's how it is. Like, they don't even mention the people in the back. They're just angry all the time. So the restaurant has to earn $2,000 or $20,000 in the night. So all the wait staff go out of their way to just be the best they can be. The hot girl who gets her tips through being hot gets soup in the face, and it burns her face. So the rest of the movie, which was kind of irritating to me because I was like, oh shit, I have to look at her nasty fucking face for the rest of the movie. So for the rest of the movie, she has a burned face. And it doesn't happen once, but like halfway through the movie, she gets her face exploded again. And so her face is like horrific. So she can't make any tips. And then the new guy like is really nice. So he like people keep giving him tables like either like through spite or by being nice. The one who's a twin of the guy who works in the kitchen. And the boxer keeps coming in every once in a while. And the boxer eventually, he's like, oh, $10,000 to anyone who closes tonight. Anybody who's on top tonight gets an extra $10,000 because I need to make money so I can pay the Yakuza so that we won't all die.
Right.
So everyone's like, yeah, we want $10,000. And they're all... there's a crazy person named Nuts, and then his alter ego is Gonzo. So Nuts, if he doesn't take his medicine, he goes Gonzo. Right. And when he's Gonzo, he starts making all the money because he goes out there and he starts like singing opera to the tables and shit because he's like insane. He does not know where he is or what he's doing. And then whenever he comes back down, he doesn't remember anything that happened when he wasn't around. So they at first force him to take his medicine, but then he realizes the $10,000 is on the line, so he throws up his medicine. Also, there's a subplot with a guy who's trying to propose to his girlfriend, and his girlfriend, Olivia Munn, is getting proposed to by her boyfriend, and she is kind of an annoying interior decorator, and there's this whole thing where like the boyfriend like seems like he kind of hates his girlfriend. He's just trying to propose this whole night. And then, of course, the manager accidentally swallows the ring. So he has to poop the ring out. And this is where my brain goes,
oh, yeah, he has to, like, wait to poop it out.
Yes. So there's this whole gag where, like, they have to keep stalling the boyfriend and girlfriend because, of course, he hasn't pooped it out yet. And then eventually the boyfriend comes in and, like, he's like, where's the ring? I want to talk to the man who swallowed this ring. I want to speak to your manager too. And the guy comes out and he's like, I'm the manager. He's like, you like somebody swallowed my ring. You're going to let this happen? And he's like, I'm so sorry I swallowed your ring. And he's like, what? You're the one who swallowed my ring? The manager swallowed the ring. I genuinely got a chuckle out of that. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like, I want to talk to the superior, and the superior is the one who fucked up. That's a good time. Anyway, so the boxer's going to kill whoever decides that he's going to kill whoever doesn't make the $10,000, right? He goes, okay, yeah, everyone's going to die who doesn't make $10,000. Okay, so anyway, everybody in the kitchen is like, shit, we need to get the $10,000. The pretty girl gets her face burned again, so she's even more hideous. They're all trying to make tips. They're all like scheming and gagging on each other in weird ways. Like they're trying to sell the most amount of lobsters, and then somebody will sell this amount of fish, and the other waiter will come up, like he'll be like, oh no, we shouldn't, don't buy that fish. The waiter before was lying to you. You should only get the salmon. Even though salmon's like 4 weeks old and they've been trying to sell it the whole time, that's a gag that like flies so under the radar that isn't even funny. It's one of those other movies where there's so many gags going on that describing the movie kind of like doesn't work. Like you can't just linearly describe A, B, or C, or else it's just like the most basic plot. You need to get $2,000. They do get $2,000. And then at the end of the movie, we find out, I'm skipping all the way to the end, I'm so done with this movie. We find out that the owner didn't need $20,000. He needed 20,000 yen, which is about, I guess, $120 to $150. He tries to steal the money, and then they explain to him, like, oh no, actually it's only $120. And he's like, oh, well, y'all get to keep the money. And then the smart girl and the new guy hook up, but it's not the new guy, because the new guy was a twin. It was actually the guy who was in the kitchen pretending to be the new guy that kissed the girl, and then the movie ends abruptly, and I was kind of angry, even though the rest of the journey was like really entertaining. Oh yeah, by the way, quiet guy at the table who didn't order anything ends up giving a tip of like $2,000 because he's dying, and then he gets hit by a horse. The end.
Awesome. Well, all right, let's see what I give this movie. 1 out of 10.
I might cut this entire segment.
Without even seeing it, I mean,
I enjoyed it.
It had a lot of quirky things that reminded me of scenes from like Better Off Dead or something.
Yes, and that's the problem with this.
So I think I give this movie a solid like 8, even if I haven't seen it.
My personal opinion is I'm going to give it a 7. I'm giving it a 7 as somebody who's watched it.
You know what?
It feels a 7. But I like that my description of it was enough for you to boost it a point. That's worth something, Nick.
I don't know, man. I kind of felt like making a retraction when you said that. That's what I originally thought.
I enjoyed it enough that I might watch it again if I was like drunk or snowed in. You know what I mean? It's one of those movies where it's like, I'm not offended by this movie. I really wish the pretty girl hadn't had her face blown off. I know that's the bit of the joke, but it kind of like just like, all right, well then that's the joke. Like let's not, the rest of the movie I had to look at somebody whose face was like being intentionally deformed.
Sounds like a pretty cool movie.
Pretty cool movie.
So if you're listening to this podcast and you made it this far, you might as well watch the movie.
Yeah, go ahead and watch the movie. It's on, I think that was on Amazon. Anyway.
Alright, well this has been Nick and Sean again. I'm Sean.
Subscribe.
Exactly.
Thanks. Subscribe, like it, comment. If there's a bell, ring it. You know what to do.